You wake up on January 1st and the room feels louder than it should. Not with sound, with expectation. Your phone lights up before you even sit up. Messages, photos, someone smiling in a kitchen you don't recognize, someone holding a glass you wouldn't want, someone writing, "New year, new me," like it's a promise they can keep. You stare at the ceiling instead. Your chest feels tight, but not dramatic, just narrow, like there's less room inside you today than yesterday. You tell yourself to get up. You don't. You scroll anyway. Your thumb moves automatically, but your face doesn't change. You pause on posts longer than you mean to. You reread captions you don't care about. There's a quiet pressure in your stomach. Not sadness, not exactly loneliness, something flatter. You notice your jaw is clenched. You loosen it. It tightens again. And somewhere in the background of your mind, a sentence keeps repeating, very calmly. Why does this hurt more today? You don't talk about this part out loud. You've learned not to. On the outside, you're composed. You reply politely. You send the right emoji. You say, yeah, it was fine. When someone asks about your night, you know how to make things sound neutral, acceptable, small enough that no one leans in. But inside, the new year feels like a spotlight you didn't agree to stand under. It's not that you wanted fireworks. It's not that you expected anything big. It's that the calendar flipped and something in you didn't move. You notice it in small ways. You hesitate before answering simple questions. What are your plans this year? You smile first, then buy time, then say something vague. You feel strangely tired even though nothing happened. Your body feels like it's been bracing for impact that never came. When someone talks about goals, your shoulders tense, not because you don't have dreams, but because imagining the future feels heavy instead of exciting. You tell yourself you're being dramatic, so you go quiet. That's what you're good at. A soft line lands here whether you want it to or not. You learned how to disappear without leaving. Being quiet inside doesn't mean you're calm. It means you've gotten very good at holding things without spilling. You don't collapse. You don't explode. You function. You show up. You do what's expected. You keep your voice steady. But on days like this, the effort shows. The new year doesn't bring hope for you. It brings comparison. You measure your insides against other people's outsides. You count what you didn't do. You replay moments where you stayed silent instead of honest. And the strangest part is this. Nothing is wrong enough to justify how heavy it feels. So you minimize it. You tell yourself others have it worse. You remind yourself to be grateful. You push the feeling down and call it maturity. But your body doesn't buy it. Your breathing stays shallow. Your appetite is off. You feel a low-grade restlessness, like you're waiting for instructions that never arrive. Soft truth, quiet pain still takes up space. There's a reason the new year hurts more when you're quiet inside. Not because of resolutions, not because of age, not because you failed at something. It hurts because the world treats January like a mirror. Everyone is reflecting, reviewing, rebranding, and when you've spent years not taking up emotional space, reflection feels dangerous. Looking too closely risks seeing things you've been avoiding. The wants you postponed, the anger you swallowed, the parts of yourself that learned it was safer not to need too much. So instead of setting intentions, you brace. You keep your expectations low. You don't ask yourself what you want because answering feels complicated. You tell yourself you'll just get through the next few weeks. That phrase feels familiar. You've been getting through things for a long time. Another soft line settles in. Survival became your personality. You didn't choose this consciously. At some point earlier in your life, you learned that being low maintenance kept things stable. Maybe you noticed that expressing disappointment changed the room. Maybe you saw how excitement was ignored. Maybe you learned that asking for more led to less. So you adapted. You became observant. You learned to read moods quickly. You figured out how to meet people where they were, even when they never came where you were. You stopped expecting emotional follow-up. You told yourself you didn't need it. That skill served you once. It helped you stay connected. It helped you stay safe. But now, every new beginning presses on that old adaptation, because the new year asks a quiet question you're not used to answering. What do you want? And your mind goes blank. Not because there's nothing there, but because you were never rewarded for knowing. If this lands, you don't need to explain. You can write me in the comments. There's a cost to staying quiet inside as an adult. It doesn't show up dramatically. It shows up subtly. You agree to things you don't fully want. You delay decisions until they decide themselves. You feel oddly resentful, then guilty for feeling that way. You give people the benefit of the doubt long after it expires. You tell yourself you're easygoing, but there's tension in your neck that doesn't go away. You avoid conflict, then replay conversations alone, saying everything you didn't say. You feel disconnected from your own milestones, birthdays, achievements, New Year's. They pass, and you're there, but not fully inside them. Another quiet line: you're present, but not participated. When everyone else talks about change, you feel pressure to become louder, bolder, more decisive. But that's not what you need. The problem was never that you were too quiet. The problem is that your quiet became a hiding place. You learned to keep your inner world private, even from yourself. So when the year changes, there's no internal ceremony, no sense of closing or opening, just continuation. That's why it hurts, not because you're behind, but because you're still carrying versions of yourself that never got acknowledged. And January has a way of highlighting what's unfinished. If this realization comes late for you, you're not alone. Some people notice it in their 20s, some in their 40s, some only when the noise around them finally dies down. You can share one word in the comments if you want. No story needed. Here's the part that often gets misunderstood. Being quiet inside doesn't mean you lack depth. It means your depth never had a safe place to land. You feel things intensely. You just learn to process them internally. So you don't celebrate loudly. You don't grieve publicly. You don't ask for help easily. And over time, that self-containment turns into isolation, even when you're surrounded. The new year amplifies this because it's collective emotion season. People broadcast hope. They narrate growth. They perform renewal. And you feel like you're watching from behind glass. You're not jealous exactly. You're tired. Tired of translating yourself. Tired of pretending you're unaffected. Tired of carrying everything quietly. Soft line, silence doesn't mean peace. The shift doesn't come from forcing optimism. It comes from noticing what your quiet has been protecting. It protected you from disappointment, from being too much, from wanting things that didn't arrive. That protection made sense once, but now it's also keeping joy at a distance. Near the end of this year's beginning, there's room for a gentler truth. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You don't need a louder personality. You need permission to take your inner life seriously, not publicly, not dramatically, just honestly. That might look like admitting quietly that this time of year is hard for you. It might look like naming one want instead of 10 goals. It might look like letting yourself feel the ache without immediately explaining it away. You're not broken for feeling this way. You adapted, and adaptations can be updated. As this settles, notice something. Your quiet isn't emptiness, it's compression. There's a lot in there, and compression hurts most when pressure changes. The calendar changed, the pressure shifted. That's why it stings. There's nothing wrong with you for noticing. There's nothing weak about being affected. And there's nothing shameful about starting small. In the next video, we'll talk about the way quiet people often confuse numbness with strength because this feeling never exists alone.